And we're back, the home team with you, Domagoj Nikola Branko, and our guest this time is Jozo Kolakušić. He's a Croatian from Australia, and he runs the Forever Croatia Facebook page, and you said also on Instagram. And it's a very interesting story of collecting and preserving the history of Croatian sport in and outside of Croatia, if I understood correctly.
That's correct.
And there's obviously, actually, much more than I expected from places I didn't know that had Croatian teams. You know, I didn't even know there were Croatians in some of those places.
That's right.
I think the obvious start-off question is, you're a young man.
Yes.
What sparked this for you? What got you started in this? What piqued your curiosity?
So growing up in Australia, my father, he always told me these stories of how Melbourne, Croatia was once a massive club, how there used to be tens of thousands of people at games, how there were big, rivalry games against, the Greeks, against the Yugoslavs, the Italians. And I just always grew up with those stories. And, my father's a lot older than most people my generation. My dad's 80 years old, so my father's probably the age of your fathers. Mm-hmm. So I always kind of, grew up with an older mind than I probably should have had for my age. And I always, thought about this, talked about it with my friends, and we always, shared it with like-minded people. But one day it just clicked, let's do something about it. It shouldn't just be 4 or 5 people talking about it, me and my friends. It should be a much wider audience. And then 2 years ago, I was just driving towards Zadar with a friend of mine, and I asked him, what do you think about the idea? And he goes, it's a great idea. And I saw, there's a lot of retro pages for Glasgow Rangers, for Dinamo Zagreb, Hajduk Split. I'm like, why shouldn't there be one for Toronto, Croatia, Sydney, Croatia, Melbourne, Croatia? And that's how it started. And
So you're not alone in this?
Not alone. One of my good friends from Australia, David Deek, Deak, it's a Croatian surname, but blends in well in Anglo-Saxon society as opposed to mine. He's from Geelong, and he's always grown up with Geelong, North Geelong, Croatia, and he'd also come and watch Melbourne, Croatia, because that was always the national club in Australia. And I asked him, would you like to help me? And he said, definitely, because all these years he's been scanning old images, finding old VHS tapes, converting them to digital, putting it up on YouTube, and I'm like, let's do it. So me and him, we started it. Asked a few friends as well from Sydney and Canada, and they're like, yeah, we're on board, and got a global Forever Croatia team.
So lots of contributors from around.
A lot of contributors. Yeah.
So I have actually an excerpt of something that David Deek himself said.
Yes.
And you sent it to me. So I was listening to it, and basically he's saying that the Croatian community, the whole question is, why do this? We know what it is. We know how you do it. You do heavy research. You guys go into databases and all that. But I think anybody would ask why, right? Mm-hmm. So he says the Croatian community was much closer knit when he was younger, and everything was centered around something Croatian where he's from. And it would be either mass or the soccer game or then a dance or something, a wedding, and it's always something Croatian. And then he believes that the strive for statehood kept people closer together. And now that we have statehood, the younger generation are less close-knit. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to kind of take it for granted now. So he said, Forever Croatia, this is a quote now, Forever Croatia is massive because if we don't pass on these stories, that dwindles quicker. It's probably inevitable. I like to think it won't ever die. Maybe it will. But the longer we talk about it, the less chance of that dwindling and dying off. That's why it's important to me. And that's why he does it. So
we need something to rally around.
Not just that. I think it's just taking on what. Why did we have a Croatian team? Why did we have Croatian school? Why did we have folklore and all that? Our parents didn't want us to forget. They didn't want to lose their language and their culture and their heritage. And now you guys are sort of picking up the baton with this in a sports sense and carrying on.
That's right. And also don't want the generations after us to grow up in oblivion, not knowing what their grandfathers did, and they did great things. Things that should have movies filmed about them, You know, how many American sporting success stories you've seen. Why hasn't there yet been a movie made about the Toronto-Croatia North American title? Hopefully one day there will be. But, I think by preserving that memory and, informing young people, younger than myself, I think it'll be a possibility, and to be proud of what their fathers and grandfathers did. It's not a small thing to create football clubs in Canada, Australia, Germany, win national titles and, have the name of a country that doesn't yet exist. I think that's a, massive thing. And the banner itself, Forever Croatia, was lifted by Sydney Croatia supporters in 2022 in the final of the Australia Cup, which is like an FA Cup in England. And they were playing against the professionals, and that banner just said everything to me. I was watching that here from Zagreb, but I wanted to be there because all those boys behind the goals were my friends of 20 years, and I felt I belonged there, but I couldn't be there because COVID just finished. Flights were like ridiculous amounts of money. Now that's stabilized, but at the time it was just out of reach, and I'm like, I should be there. So that kind of just stuck with me, and about a year later, let's do the page. And I had a few ideas for names. One was Old School Croatia 2, kind of fits with the whole story, but Forever Croatia just made the most amount of sense, and
Yeah, it's a good name.
I think
it rings. Yeah, because not only from the past, it's forever.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
Exactly.
As opposed to forever and ever.
Exactly. And then, every city in the world almost has a Croatian team with the name Croatia. Los Angeles, San Francisco, from the 1930s. This is way before the, later migration trends from Croatia. So, what I didn't know, I had a book recommended to me by Marin Sopta, who came in the early 90s, and was very active in the Croatian cause and Toronto, Croatia back in the day. Would you agree?
I'm not sure about his involvement in the soccer, but
Yeah,
I know the name. Yeah,
I know his son.
There's a few photos of him holding trophies and stuff as a club official. And he wrote a book called Svetlo ime Croatia. And that came out, I think, 2014. When I discovered that book, I discovered a gold mine because, I was only planning on doing just the big Croatia clubs, so Toronto, Sydney, and Melbourne, the ones that won, national titles. But, when I discovered this book, I realized there's a few hundred Croatias around the world, and, obscure places like Venezuela, in Caracas, there was a Croatia Caracas, as well in Johannesburg in South Africa. In the times of apartheid, they had, African players playing for those clubs, Cape Town as well. And, here in the whole world, Croatians have always been labelled many nasty names, but, during the times of the apartheid, we had, African players playing for those clubs, and proudly with the Croatian, crests on their heart, and the white check as well, which is now brought into contention, but back then it wasn't a problem. And also in Australia there was a Aboriginal Australian player called Charlie Perkins. He played for Adelaide, Croatia, and he almost had words like Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali. Basically to paraphrase, like, no Croatian ever called me the N-word, So he was Aboriginal activist and also a proud player of Adelaide, Croatia. And in his memoirs, he speaks very fondly of the Croatian community when he played in the 60s.
You have a friend in the USA, right? Who collects the jerseys?
Yes, Anthony Zoric from Los Angeles. So, through running this page, he's reached out to the page. He was already friends with my friend David Deek before, but through this page he reached out and he sent in materials from his club, Los Angeles, Croatia, which doesn't exist anymore, but photos from the 60s, the 70s. And he also collects jerseys from all around the world, so Croatian jerseys. So he's got one of the biggest collections in the world of the Croatian national team jerseys. But he's also been collecting a Croatian diaspora club jersey, so he's got all of them. And those that he doesn't have, he's always, saying, put up a post on the page, I'm searching for this club. And somebody reaches out to him, and I sent a photo to you, Branko.
I think we're gonna put that in the video.
Yeah,
There's a
so-
photo of a good number of jerseys.
Yeah.
How many?
very
Do you
good
know
number.
exactly how many he has,
I
or
think
like a
it's
rough number?
I think it's over 60. I think
Over
But,
60?
Yeah.
I heard that there's a guy in Argentina that has even more.
Yes, Javier Santic, I believe his name is.
Wow, you know it.
He's got a massive one. Well, that's because I also like the Croatian national team. We'll get into that later, but and I also saw in HRT there was a segment on him also on Glas Hrvatska, I believe. We've actually visited his house, him and his brother in Argentina, and in his backyard he's just got hundreds of Croatian-related jerseys from
Like laid out on the grass.
laid out on the grass. Yeah, so
That's great.
it's,
So those would be mostly South American teams, like I don't know, Caracas,
no,
Croatia.
no,
or whatever.
Croatian national team mostly,
national
then
team,
Croatian
okay.
clubs in Croatia,
Mm.
and then all the diaspora clubs as well. So he's got Toronto, he's got Melbourne, he's got
That'd be
Hamilton.
cool for our studio, huh? All the Croatian jerseys around us.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have them all draped around here. You got to start somewhere. So
Well.
I'm sure.
Are you in contact with the old players?
Yeah, a few players.
Yeah.
Yeah. So players I didn't think I'd ever be talking to. Have reached out to the page, which has been pretty awesome. Not sure if I can name drop, but
Yeah, why not?
of course.
well, one of the people that follows the page is David Deal. He's an American football player. Like he just followed the page one day. Like couldn't believe it.
Like
And
NFL player.
Yeah,
What?
NFL
Oh,
player.
okay, yeah.
I mean, out of soccer players, had Stipe Pletikos that follow the page.
Mm-hmm.
This person I idolized as a kid. And Mark Viduka as well. He follows the page, and he's even submitted photographs from his youth, which I've posted on the page.
What about a jersey? Slant jersey.
Well, not yet, but Mark, if you're
Mark.
watching,
We actually,
awesome.
I think he's going to be our next guest, so we'll tell him.
yeah, sure. Well, it'll be good to have one of his championship-winning jerseys here on the wall. So, I'll give priority to the home team.
No. We'll tell him that Jozo from Forever Croatia needs a jersey that's signed.
Yeah, so he's been a great help to the page. Whenever I've asked him things about his youth career as a junior, he's always given me the details. And
Because what
Also-
city? Sorry, what city did he grow up in? Is he,
he
from
grew
Melbourne?
up in Melbourne. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then also players that he played with as well follow the page. From the junior days, and they're also providing photos and details, and there's just it's an endless amount of people that I never thought I'd have contact with. It's connected me with like club presidents as well. Of say Red, White, Blue, Adria, Chicago, Ante Lonchar, he's been a great help, and from Canada, have Ante Radoš from Hamilton, also sending me a lot of images and footage. There's a lot of people. We'll get to them later, but yeah.
Where do you? Wow, you're connected like to the entire Croatian network in the whole world.
Well, yeah, this page has made that possible. It's connected us all, put us all on the same team, and we're all Team Forever Croatia, and doing the good work.
Where do you get most of the statistics and stories?
Football statistics websites. So for Australia, there's a website called Oz Football. Then there's a UK website which covered Australian football called socceros.co.uk. Then for Canadian football as well, you got the old Canadian National Soccer League archives.
That's all online.
It's all
Yeah.
online.
That's cool. It's online.
Yeah,
now.
but also have books which I've received in the meantime, because people have been inspired by the page, and they're like, oh, okay, wow, people are talking about our history, So I've had Bernard Luštica, the father of Steve Luštica, who played for Hajduk Split and Canberra, Croatia in his youth. He reached out to me when he was in Split last year in Croatia. We met up for a coffee and discussed, the history of his club, which is Canberra, Croatia, for about 3 hours. And also Hajduk Split's visit to Australia in 1990, which he's writing a book about, and it'll be coming out next year, I believe. He gave me a book about Canberra, Croatia, which he wrote in 1999, but it's about this thick, so a lot of material.
Right. Nice.
That, and then from Zurich as well in Switzerland, the president of that club decided to reach out and send us a book about their history, which just came out last year. They were celebrating.
I saw a post recently on Forever Croatia regarding that. Yeah.
And then from that book had rare materials like Croatian singer Vica Vukov in Zurich 1971, 72, you know, with the Croatian flag, the club flag, the players, the president. Like, this is stuff you've never seen before. I mean, at least the rest of us in the world, maybe.
Well, I was
Croatians.
surprised. He told me things about Toronto, Croatia that I didn't know.
Well,
Yeah,
you
'cause
told me a lot as well, you know, and
I mean, I was at a game when they played the New York Cosmos, and Pele and Beckenbauer were playing for New York. But I was a kid. I remember a few scenes from the game, but I know that I watched Pele and Beckenbauer live.
it's huge.
That's wild.
I don't know if that makes you old.
I know.
Yeah, it
if,
does.
Or if they were just like, they must have been like,
Well, they were
Because
old
in their
too. They
40s
they
probably.
couldn't make it in Europe or anything anymore, right?
yeah.
So just like, I still, no offense to the MSL, but the European players go there when
Yeah.
they want to make the money, and it's at the end of their career.
Yeah.
And I think it was the same thing with the NASL. Eusebio played for Toronto. He's huge for Portugal.
Yeah.
And I think he was playing that game. But I was really young. I can't remember too much of it. I remember the Croatian crowd screaming and all that. But I think we won it. We won that game. Anyway.
I remember, so like, tying on to basically what your colleague was saying in that soundbite, I remember as a kid, so this is a couple of years after you, but I remember going downtown into Toronto to watch the what were we called then?
Metros Croatia?
Metros Croatia.
Yeah.
And I remember going in to watch games, and we were playing Ireland, something like that, and there was easily 10 to 15,000 people in the stands,
Oh, yeah.
right? Now, we're talking about Canada here, so back in the day in Canada, you're not getting 10 to 15 people for a soccer game,
Yeah.
right? And yet for this, we had literally like more than 10,000 people, right? It was like a very, very big thing. Like
Was
what
that
you're
the
saying.
CNE or where was it?
Honestly, I can't remember. I think it was at Toronto.
They played at Varsity
Varsity
Stadium, and
Stadium.
they played at Exhibition Stadium.
Yeah, I
depending.
think this was at Varsity. And that idea of like, it did kind of bring us together as the Croatian community in that area, right?
You got to take into account that the Scots came to those games. Not the Scots. I don't know. You call them the other nationalities that were. I'm not sure if Metros was Metros a Scottish team.
I think it was just a general like
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon team. And
So
they
the
merged.
Anglo-Saxons that followed Metros came to the game, and then you had a lot of Portuguese because of Eusebio would come to the game. And like there was a time when I think even Vialli's father played for Toronto, Croatia, so we could have even had Italians. And I think they were all the European nations were just hungry for more soccer.
Well, I think so, but I mean, I remember as a kid, I remember just seeing Croatian flags everywhere, right? Like
Yeah,
it was the stands were just packed with Croatian flags, right?
Yeah.
In that sense, given that, you know, from the transcript and the soundbite, have you noticed that there has been a kind of like that's tapered off, given that now we actually have an internationally recognized Croatia with our own league, our own clubs, a very successful national team? Has that started to die off? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it has, yeah. So everything after 1995, it almost like people just said, all right, we've achieved our goal, we've got Croatia now. You know, let's either move back to Croatia, which few people did, and most just, you know, come every year on holidays and they're proud Croatians and watch the Croatian national team, wear their Croatian jersey, and that's their goal fulfilled. But the whole page is, how did we get to this stage?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, that's more important, you know, like,
Speaking about watching the Croatian national team,
yes.
we know that you've been to many games. I don't think I know anybody that's been to more.
Yeah, I've been to a few, but I know a lot of guys who have been to a lot more. There used to be like a top 10 of most frequent Croatia supporters at Croatian national team games, and they're all my friends now, you know, through watching the Croatian national team, you know, going to cities all around the world. It's always the same faces, and but yeah, I've been to a bit, but I'd always like to go to more if I can.
You went to Russia?
I went to Russia, yes.
You went
the
to
World
Qatar?
Cup. Went to Qatar, yes.
You went to see Modric in Madrid?
I went to Madrid, to watch Modric at least once, at the Bernabeu. I always thought, whilst he's playing at Madrid, whilst he's captain, we've got to see, Croatian player, in our lifetimes. After Davoršuk, I'm a bit younger, but, I think Modric had a much bigger impact. So, it was just an honour to be at the Bernabeu in Madrid and watching Modric like 15 metres away from you. We even bought, a bit more pricier tickets just so, we could see him. And it was kind of cool. He was warming up before the game, and there was 3 of us in Croatian jerseys. And whenever you watch a Real Madrid game, there's always someone in a Croatian tub. But anyway, we were yelling out to Luka, we were waving at him, and he waved to us. He waved to us. So,
do the Real fans? They know you're Croatian right away.
They love him. They see him as a sporting god. Like you wear a Croatian top to Bernabeu, and everyone's like, Croatia, Modric, or Modric, a lot of them say that.
Modric, Luka, Modric, Luka, Modric.
But even when you go to like a restaurant in the south of Spain, waiter asks where you're from, you say Croatia, and they're like, oh, Modric,
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Massive, I don't think people realize in Croatia how big Croatian players are. Globally, in Spain and everywhere they play. So that's stuff I live for really. Makes me happy.
And how do you travel around? Do you go by? You get a bunch of dudes just go in a car and drive? Do you get on a train, a bus, a plane? Or how do you get to these places?
How do you afford it? Sorry, I've seen you. You have an uncanny ability to get in front of the camera as well.
It's not intentional, believe it or not. It's not. It happens.
And there's Jozo again, and there's Jozo again. And how does he afford to go to these games? Like Qatar?
Yeah, Qatar, it was just good planning, really. It was, instead of flying out through Zagreb when, everyone decided to go for the semi-final, we went to Sarajevo and flew out from Sarajevo, where the price was like a fifth of what it would be, Can I say figures? 300 euros return.
Jeez Louise.
That's not that much to go to, Qatar.
That's nothing, yeah.
Whilst, from Zagreb, when the rush started, it was over 1,000. So it's just good planning. It's just researching routes. I've got a good bunch of friends who also are very good at planning this stuff. So even when I lived in Australia, I had this good friend Dario, who I travelled to all these games with. And for example, went to the Brazil World Cup, and I flew in from Melbourne. He flew in from Zagreb. He found the way where he flew out from Venice or something. I flew out from Melbourne. We met halfway, and that was my first World Cup. And it's just all these guys who go regularly. There's about 50, 60 of them. They've just planned the stuff 6 months in advance. They check when flights are like, I don't know, for example, we're playing in the Faroe Islands. They check when flights are like 100 euros return, and they book. As soon as the fixture comes out, they've booked it, whilst, a lot of Croatians, including myself now, have adopted Croatian habits. I wait till the last minute and then the flight's,
But wait,
out of reach.
They book it right away. How do they know they're going to get tickets?
Is that a secondary priority, or is it kind of like, let's just get there and figure it out, or what?
If I don't get a ticket, I'll be outside?
I think it's more figure it out, but the ones who regularly go, they've got Highness the last 4 or 5 years, I think they've got a priority list for fans. So those who go most to games get priority picks, so they're almost guaranteed a ticket. And those who go least then have to, take their chance in the luck of a draw. At one point I was in the top 50. This was before COVID, 2019, 2020. Dropped into the top 500, so I really got to, lift my socks up and, go to more away games, because that's where you get your ranking. But yeah, it's something that I enjoy. It's something that I live for. I feel that all these Croatian clubs in the world were kind of the predecessor to the national team. So going back to that question of has it dwindled off, it has, because we've got the Croatian national team. There's no need for a Toronto or Hamilton, Croatia to promote the Croatian name, because we've got, world stars playing for Croatia and, winning medals on a regular basis and promoting the name. So that's why I'm most passionate about the Croatian national team, and many of my friends as well, all around the world, really. It's best when we go to a tournament, and then, in Qatar, I haven't got accommodation, but then my friend Joe Baričević takes us in, 10 of us in a hotel room, and we're all sleeping, on the bed, on the couch, on the floor. Doesn't matter. We're there, we're going to sing for the team, and there's a lot of solidarity, so we all look after each other. And, you know, anyone who doesn't have a ticket, you know, asks around, and eventually a ticket pops up, you know. So yeah, it's a nice, positive community.
How was Qatar?
Qatar was great, you know, compared to what the media was saying before the World Cup, that it's going to be no alcohol, you're not going to be able to do this, you won't be able to wear anything longer than, you know, a long sleeve shirt. You know, there was none of that. It was probably the best organised tournament, along with Russia, that I've ever been to. It was great, you know, and you know, people are like, oh, you won't be able to drink beer, but you could. You just had to be like in an enclosed space, like go to a restaurant.
Expensive?
Was expensive.
Yeah.
But there was also another trick where we met locals that live in Qatar, and they had a license to buy like alcohol, like slabs, so they would buy it, and we'd drink it inside their apartment or inside the hotel room or apartment, and you know, there's always ways around. So basically, if you want to go, there's always a way. It doesn't have to be expensive either, you know. Especially these European away games, they're not that expensive if you book on time. You know, I've seen people go for 30 euros return, backpack on their shoulders, going on a Ryanair flight. You know, just got to do that. You know, sleep in a hostel. Doesn't have to be a 5-star hotel. Hostels cost, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 euros. But then you've got people with more money and they stay in a 200 euro hotel. It's all, you know, everyone's got their, you know, different financial, you know, how would I say,
So,
constraints.
what would you say is the best game you've ever been to?
Croatia, England, 2-1.
Wow.
In Wembley?
In Moscow.
Oh, in Moscow. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't go to Wembley. I was a bit too young, and that's another story. So I was always a kid, you know, watching the Croatian national team as a kid, wearing the Crow jersey, '98, and I'm like, I'd love to be there one day. And my parents never took me in there. They never really could, you know, due to, you know, variety of reasons. And then as soon as I turned 18, I said, you know, I'm going to go, you know, watch Croatian national team. So when I was like 18 or 19. I went to Poland to the Euros. That was my first tournament in 2012, and went with a bunch of my friends from Zagreb and all over. And then, yeah, I just made it a mission of mine to go to, you know, every tournament I can. And I've been to, yeah, every one so far since then, yeah.
Wow.
Except to Euro 2016. I had exams at uni at that time, and that was a big problem as well. I always had exams in June when tournaments are happening, you know, so I couldn't go. But, you know, now that I finished uni, I can go wherever I like, as long as I, you know, plan it in advance and, you know, book it all on time. You know, I've always got friends asking me, like, months before a game, are you going to Faroe Islands? Are you going to the Czech Republic? So, you know, it's something that we enjoy. Somebody likes fishing, somebody likes hunting, somebody likes playing cards, you know, I like watching Croatian national team.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Croatia, Argentina, 3-0.
That was amazing. Yeah. So I watched that with my dad. At the time, it was about 74, 75. And, you know, he likes to, now in his older age, you know, watch it from a couch in comfort. You know, he's like, you young people, you know, singing, yelling, you know, you know, but he was 10 times worse and he was, you know, 20, in his 20s. But he was at the game with us, cousin, few friends, and we linked up with a bunch of boys from Sydney who were also at the game, who later became my friends and all moved to Zagreb. They are all from Hurstville, Zagreb, the Croatian soccer club, founded in 1970, also featured on the page. Yeah, so, you know, we're in the away end against Argentina. There's about 4,000 or 5,000 Argentinians with their drums, loud, singing, and you know, they're very convinced that they're going to win that World Cup in 2018, and you know, they're very cocky almost. And you know, when Croatia scored first time, they, you know, tapered down a bit. When Croatia scored the second time, silence. You can only hear us 15 Croats in their away end singing. And one of those people was my father, who was going off his nut. He's letting tears of joy. You know, I sent the video clip to Branko, you know, an old man that excited about something, you can't believe it. But you can't say he's an old man, he's a young man at heart. You know, he doesn't let you say he's an old man. you know, that was amazing to experience that with him and my friends. And, you know, Croatia won 3-0. And I think that was like a big statement at that World Cup. That's when the world realized that we mean business. And I think players convinced themselves and Croatia that we could make some impact. Because, yeah, leading into that World Cup, the atmosphere wasn't positive. You know, you had half the country, you know, wanting the team to lose because they didn't agree with the federation, which I can never agree with. Doesn't matter what your club loyalties are. The nation and the club should always come above that, you know. So, yeah, 3-0 against Argentina. Especially that Rebic goal. That was amazing.
I was going to say the beauty and quality of those goals was.
Yeah.
It was my favorite one.
Yeah, it wasn't like something bounced off somebody's
No.
like hip and went into that. No,
Yeah.
that was a killer goal, and that set the
Roundhouse
tone.
kick, Chuck
Yeah.
Norris. You know?
Yeah, but it like
That was
totally
so
set the
badass.
tone for that game,
did.
right?
It did.
An interesting thing that you mentioned, because like you've obviously been to these, and you said you watched '98 on
As a
TV.
kid, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I idolized that.
Yeah.
For me, that was like the pinnacle of what it could be one day.
Yeah.
You know?
So we were a little bit older when that was happening, and
Yeah.
obviously '98 for us was a huge thing because
Yeah.
you know it was a massive thing. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it was a
Please do.
It was, for me, honestly, personally, this was so much personal frustration was vented on that. All those years in Canada, being asked by adults, older people, you know, whether it was, you know, you introduce yourself, oh, that's an interesting name, or like, you know, where's that name from? And then you say like Croatia, well, where's Croatia? All of that kind of stuff that was, I would say, a little bit kind of humiliating, that you'd have to explain to somebody that, you know, I'm Croatian, Croatia's here, and we actually exist, we are a people, you know. And '98 was on the biggest global stage. Globally speaking, there is no bigger sport than soccer, football,
Soccer,
right?
Football, yeah.
And that was that kind of, I'm not going to say it the way I want to say it, but you know, you guys know what I want to say. That was that moment. It just all popped. And when I saw 2018 in Russia, I thought, man, these guys are better than '98.
Yeah.
Player per player, like, and that's what kind of I wanted to ask you, given that you're there so often, you go to so many of these games. When you look at now, Russia, Qatar, and what we're coming into now, I'm of the opinion that 2018 was the best team we ever had.
Yes, I agree.
Where do you see us now? Because we're coming up. We got 2 qualification games in September. Luka is a god,
Yes,
but he is getting a little bit older.
he's.
How do you see the team now going forward?
Well, I thought by now we'd, you know, run out of talent and dry up, but, you know, always a new player pops up in a different position. You're like, wow, he's amazing. So I think we're blessed, you know, by better players than I think we deserve, you know. I think we deserve the best, but, you know, such a small nation and always, you know, top players coming up. You know, you got Guardiola, Man City tearing it up. You got Stanisic in Germany. You know, a plethora of players that just keep, you know, Vasucic is, you know, I don't know if you want to get into that, but, you know, for example, Belio, he was doing well at Augsburg and he kind of fell out of form, and now he's at Dinamo and he's scoring goals
like
you
crazy,
know,
yeah.
like crazy. Could get a call up. I'm surprised he didn't get a call up now, but, you know, I think we always come good for the World Cups.
When you say we could get into Sucic, you mean the suspension, so to
Yeah.
speak? What do you think of
Yeah,
it?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just, 2-game suspension. It almost feels like, you know, they kind of came to an agreement, all right.
So you think they're making more out of it than it
Yes,
actually is?
Yeah,
I
because the
agree.
first article that got sent to me said 2-match ban. Okay, fair enough. You know, it's probably almost as though they kind of agreed upon it. Dalic and Sucic, and he gets to go to his sister's wedding. Dalic maintains his authority, and everybody's happy. you
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
So you know what happened?
I don't. I just came out of the mountains.
Yeah.
So.
So Sucic asked Dalic, his sister was getting married, he wanted to go to the wedding, but they had a game. And he said, well, you know, you can do what you want, but I wouldn't go. And then he asked some of the players as well. Modric said, I missed somebody else's wedding.
well, he missed his sister's wedding.
sister's
She had to she had to reschedule 3 times.
Yeah, that's what he
for
said.
his wedding.
So
yeah.
he says, my sister rescheduled the wedding 3 times so that I could go. And he went. And then it was like, well, okay, you're not going to play 2 games.
I agree with Jozo on this.
I just
Yeah,
think it's a
I don't think it's that big a deal.
It's a non-issue. It'll pass. You know.
They're making
But
more out of it than
I
it
think
is.
I think you're right on the money. Dalic still has to maintain his
He has
authority
to,
because
yeah.
that's the key to that.
Yeah.
The key to our success is Dalic being the general and these people doing what he says, and you've got the talent to do it on the pitch.
Exactly.
One thing that when you mentioned, that we keep on producing
It's
new talent.
unbelievable. You think we'd run out?
You think exactly.
Yeah.
You think at some point, like those villagers would say, "Okay, look, we're tapped out. You know,
Yeah.
go hit the big cities for a while, right?" But
Yeah.
when I always look back at one player that I kind of always followed. I don't know why he stuck in my mind, but Ivan Perisic.
He's amazing.
When he was in the unders, right? So effectively still a kid, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking the whole time, I'm going like, this guy's awesome. This guy's really awesome, and for me, is like a ridiculous talent.
I love seeing how he's doing.
Yeah,
PSV.
Yeah,
too.
the guy is just
great.
Fantastic.
endlessly talented. My God, at that age, he's still like the fastest guy in the pitch.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And
Machine.
I would compare his cross to Robert Jarni,
Yeah, which was huge.
which was huge. I'm like, I've never seen a better cross than
Yeah, Jarni had
Jarni
that.
had that, right?
And it consistently.
Consistent. He never whiffed one, right? Another player that also, coming up through the youth ranks was, I can't believe I'm going to blank on his name. Played for Sassuolo in the Italian league.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Played for
Shime.
Dinamo before.
Versailles?
Say again?
Versalco.
Versalco.
I thought Versalco was literally this guy that keeps on passing under the radar. And yet, when 2018 came around, the guy just blossomed into this fantastic player.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it is interesting. They say that at those tournaments like the World Cup and the European Championships and whatever, every phase that they pass, they don't get knocked out, the team gets better and better because they're playing more together. You're in the group phase, you play 3 games, you get knocked out. They've only played 3 games together, but if you get to the semifinals, you played 6 at the same tournament every 4 or 5 days.
It was
Yeah.
like that in Qatar. Like
You saw them getting better and better and better.
Yeah, the first game against Morocco, the first time we played them in the group stage, was one of the worst games I've ever seen. Like, it was just like going back 20 years when we were bad in the early 2000s, and I'm like, what is this? Like, have we really dropped that low? But then as the tournament went on, they got better and better. All right, it was a miracle that we, exited the group, but the second time we played Morocco in the third place playoff, we were on fire,
Yeah.
Won 2-1. That was unbelievable. But, it took a whole tournament to get to that stage. But I think also it was kind of similar to like Russia, against Canada when they won 4-1. That was a statement. And that's when they started to believe. Belgium was, lucky to get through. But after that, it kind of just opened up, against Brazil and Japan. Would you agree?
Canada wasn't that, not Russia, that wasn't that
That was in Qatar.
Qatar,
Yeah,
yeah.
and Canada went up 1-0 first 5
Well,
minutes,
yeah.
The whole thing with the coach.
and the coach got his serve from the players, which is also good. That's what I love about our players. Whenever they get written off, 2018 the English wrote us off, and then we showed them, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Psycho
And then,
was very happy about it.
I think Modric mentioned something after the game, how we read what you wrote about us.
Yeah,
That's enough, because the British papers, they take no prisoners when it comes to
no, they don't
putting
even-
down the opponents.
They put down themselves.
Yep.
Like their own players say
Yeah.
that their worst enemies, their own British tabloids.
Yeah,
They're ruthless. But what I don't get about them is, after Croatia has a big success, say Russia, it gets forgotten about. So already in Qatar, we were like the underdogs again, written off, nobody's taking us seriously until we made another semi-final. That's when, I don't know, I even listen to British football podcasts. Croatian players rarely get a mention, like Modric here and there, but I don't know why they constantly, always...
because they push their own players. That's,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, they make
I
Harry
think they
Maguire
wanna-
out to be the greatest thing since sliced toast, but he's actually
well,
not that good.
remember, what was it, the European Championships? Football's coming home
yeah,
2 weeks early.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I think there's just something that they have this thing about, they just don't want to talk about us because there's plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not like we don't have world-class players and that we haven't had them for a long time, right?
That's right. Always.
I think like we used to argue back in the day, back in '98, you look at that midfield, that was number one or number two midfield in the entire world.
Yeah, one of the
Like,
best.
it was one of the best midfields. That's actually the position I can't, when you say you would think we'd run out of talent, we constantly produce world-class midfielders.
Yeah.
You watch Luka and you're going, oh my God, it's going to suck when he's gone. And then all of a sudden, here comes Mateo Kovacic.
But that's what we thought about Boban when he was gone.
Yeah.
And then Modric shows up.
Modric was.
I know, but not right away.
Yeah, but
eventually
you're constantly
it's,
producing these players, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly getting this talent. I'm going like, gee, where's it coming from?
Yeah, it's
It's amazing.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
really.
To me, that actually there's a tie-in there to what you were talking about earlier of this thing of, remembering what allowed all of this to happen, right?
Yes.
Looking back and remembering those old teams back in the 70s and the 80s, you and I watched, and like all of us had to put our energy as fans into that because that's all you had, right?
Yeah.
And now all of that's funneled into this, and that's why I think it is such a big deal. It's like it's more than sport.
It is.
It's this is religion, right? And I think it's important to remind ourselves of that. And
Definitely.
It's a big part of our identity, I think, because it doesn't matter where you go in the world. You wear a Croatian jersey in Dubai, Las Vegas, wherever. As soon as you wear it, people are like, Croatia. It doesn't matter what nationality in the world it is.
I was in Paris. Some Lebanese guy at a kebab stand asked me where I'm from. I said Croatia. First thing he said was Luka Modric.
There you go.
Well, it's like the checkered pattern has become, it's a brand.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
And I've argued now for a while, our athletes, not just football, our athletes in general, have done more positive for Croatian promotion than our entire diplomacy,
Oh,
Absolutely.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I would actually,
And a lot of them don't even get paid. It's only
Yeah.
soccer and basketball which they get paid.
Yeah.
The high jumpers, the
Sinkovic brothers.
yeah,
How
rowers.
much money is in that?
Yeah.
They get some small sponsorships. But that's for most of them, that's not enough to survive. Karate as well. Mateo Jelic and all them. And they do such a good job of promoting Croatia.
Yeah.
And you got Croatia's diplomatic corps all around the world living off taxpayers' money, and they're not paid a little. They're paid a lot. When you include all the expenses, and they just do their job because they have to. Like a typical government worker anywhere in the world. This is also another thing. In Croatia they've made the word uhljeb, this big thing, but you watch Italian movies, Spanish movies about the exact same topic, and it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Just doing the bare minimum that you have to, just so you don't get fired. But these people promote Croatia with a passion.
exactly.
Well, I was just telling the guys before, my little kid was playing with Filip Hrgovic's kid. And the video was just going on online in the Croatia jersey, blasting, some music going down the street in Miami
I've
and
seen
stuff.
that.
I just saw it like yesterday, and I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, there's nothing better than coming back home. I was like, congratulations on the win. He just won his match 2-3 days ago. But yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Croatians love-
Congratulations to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Bravo Hrgović.
Yeah, maybe we'll get him.
We'll see.
They're
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. He's so, like lots of these stars are so approachable too. I mean,
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other podcasts you've had with the diver before that was
Yeah.
fascinating to watch.
I thought that was a good one. I thought it was fascinating. Yeah.
That was really,
I felt like I was at school. I mean, the guy was talking stuff.
Me
I
too.
was like genuinely like I should be taking notes here. Right?
It's like if my life goes, if I can't breathe, he can come. Don't call a doctor. You got him. He's practically like he finished medicine.
Yeah. That was the thing. Is like it wasn't. My experience with sports was just it was a very physical thing, and that's kind of where it peaked, right? You didn't have to use your brain too much. Well, again,
Yeah, it was very technical, very informative, I found.
it was incredibly
Yeah.
informative.
So yeah, if you just keep having guests coming in like that, I definitely think this show's going to grow, and it's just great to watch, you three speaking about, Croatian sports, and you actually know what you're talking about, in the English language. I think that's refreshing.
I don't know. I
to
think
see.
we're the only one, huh, in the world.
There's a,
That little quick pause there.
There's actually a good podcast. I think you guys should do a crossover. It's called All Things Croatia podcast. It's a Croatian guy from Los Angeles, I believe. Used to live here in Zagreb, learned Croatian, and he's had a bunch of these, world sporting stars from Croatia on the show. So it'd be good if you two could tee up and do something together. That would be pretty cool. You guys should, yeah.
We would definitely like to kind of keep a regular with you as well, just as more stuff keeps coming up, because you're saying you've got all of this material still left to research.
So much.
And when you mentioned the idea of like a movie, that actually that to me sounds like not just a good idea, but something that should be done, needs to be done.
Yeah.
They're what was it? 76 Toronto won.
Yeah, North American Soccer League,
Yeah.
Soccer Bowl. Yeah.
I think I've seen just about every Miracle on Ice movie ever possible. Like they've made like a lot about it. Granted, great achievement, fantastic, and kudos. But I think that would be an interesting story in a way for younger kids to start to kind of learn about what that was at that time, what it meant, and understanding that in a way it was kind of almost like there was this thing that was kind of, I'm not going to say illegal, but it was a little bit,
Risque.
Yeah, it was a little bit risque, right?
There's a Canadian broadcasting channel documentary. It's only about 10 or so minutes, but they interview the actors of the time, and they speak about the battles that they had to have just to have the name Croatia in it, because metros were bankrupt, needed a sponsor. Croatians were ready to invest, but the federation didn't want to cause diplomatic incidents by calling a club Croatia when it's part of then Yugoslavia. And the Croatians were like, we're not going to invest unless it has the name Croatia, because the purpose was to promote the name Croatia in the world. And then researching other clubs, Canberra, Croatia, Melbourne, Croatia, Munich, Croatia, all common theme, common story. The whole purpose of their being was to promote the Croatian name, so that as much people in the world hear about Croatia, so that one day when the conditions become favourable for Croatia, creating a Croatian state, that people know what we're talking about. Just like the other nations which don't have a country like the Kurds or Palestine and many others who had a similar kind of struggle back then and now, and I think, all right, we've got folklore, we've got Croatian school, all that, but sporting results I feel is what promoted Croatia most. You got some article from the Toronto Sun, what's it called? Yeah, 1956 says Croatia beats Belfast United in their first game. That was the first game Toronto Croatia played against an Irish team. That's huge.
Yeah, it tells me more about Toronto, Croatia than I know.
That's wild. Man.
Well, I've learnt a lot, because I knew a lot about Melbourne and Sydney, Croatia, because I grew up there. But, I always heard about Eusebio from my dad, and, he always spoke about how they were North American champions. And then as the internet kind of developed, people put things up on YouTube, like the old, Zapruder film of the game. No magic bullet. And it's just great to watch, to tie the story to the, footage. And then, my dad always told me about it. And he was living in Australia at the time, and he knew all this because there was Croatian newspapers in Canada, Australia, America, Argentina, wherever, and they were all printing the same news, because it almost seems as though they had better communication then before the internet than we have today, where we all got smartphones in our pockets, and I don't think we're as informed as they were, the old fellas, your father, mine.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. We one message comes out and that message gets spent everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no counter narrative, there's no looking into that, it's just this is it and everybody go with that, right?
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to put a link under the video.
Yes, please.
Of the Instagram account and the Facebook.
Thank you. Yeah.
And would you have like a shop, a Forever Croatia shop?
We've got T-shirts. If you're interested, get in touch. We do. Yeah.
Merch.
What I'm wearing now is image of a retro player for Melbourne, Croatia in 1967.
Do you know
his name? Is Billy Wojtek, and his son follows the page. Damien, and he sent in photos of his father and himself when he played in the 90s. He played with, so Damien, his son, played with Mark Viduka, and there's a photo of him and a few other players, Joe Barchuk. holding a flag from 1956 or something, when Croatia like won a title, but then it was disallowed, but it was still kept in the club rooms. And there's a photo of them in
you
90.
brought some, right? We get to
yeah,
see them.
Yeah, actually, it's good that you brought this up. I almost forgot. So these are some of the T-shirts that we make as a Forever Croatia team. This one was inspired by a T-shirt from Chicago, worn in the early 90s, sent in by Gloria Puljic of her father, also inspired by John Kosin, who gave her the idea. He had a T-shirt which said Croatia Forever. So given that it has the same, almost the same name as the page, we made a remake of it, Forever Croatia, in a kind of retro style.
I like the font. The font is good, old school
Yeah,
font.
it's old school. You know,
Nice.
It's
Yeah, that's
kind of
cool.
just ties in that the Croatian cause didn't start in '91, started
Way
many
back
decades
when,
before
yeah.
that. So I'd like to give that to you, Branko, because
Thank you.
not only did you watch Toronto, Croatia, but you actually fought for this country when it mattered. So thank you for your
Thank you.
military service. For coming as a young man,
Thanks.
not many of you, but those that
I
are,
feel
There's
uncomfortable.
another
take
one
our
right here.
hats
And
off.
he was here too.
Which one?
He was also
Oh,
here.
Domagoj.
I-
Cool. There you go.
I'm the junior member. I can't.
Yeah, and this is the first T-shirt that we made. This is inspired by the Sydney Croatia supporters banner that they held up at the Australia Cup game. So yeah, I made them for you guys to have. So
Super.
here's a gift,
That's cool. And it's got the logo in the back.
Oh, there we go.
and I think it just sums
Yeah,
up
that's
what
cool.
we're all about, because we grew up in Western countries, with the Croatian cause always at the forefront of our identity, and then you two came back and defended this country when it was under attack. So thank you to Domagoj as well for your service for this country and for what you do every day here at the Croatian radio television. It's not a small thing, People like to think that everything's negative in this country, but I think you guys do a great job reading the, Croatian news in English and, host of other shows, including this one that you do. Here you go as well.
Oh, thanks a lot, dude.
Not a problem.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Outstanding.
So yeah, people feel attached to the page.
Yeah.
It's not our page. It's not my page. It's not David's page. It's there's a team of us, but everyone relates. It's their page. It's
So,
their father. It's their grandfather involved.
So, smash the like button on this video.
Yes.
Smash the like button on the Forever Croatia Facebook and Instagram. Like all their posts. The more followers you get, I think the better, the more the word is going to get out.
Yeah, definitely. It's informative. Young people are kids that are like I'm in my early 30s, but kids that are like 18, 19, 20, very inspired. Like they didn't know that their grandfathers were such rebels, such legends. Doing extraordinary things. I think it's just great to see, and everyone's got a common story, and I don't think this page. I don't think I would have gotten this idea had I have not moved to Croatia. Speaking to people like yourselves at returnee gatherings, and I grew up in Toronto, I grew up in Hamilton, I grew up in Mississauga, Melbourne City. Everyone's got the same theme. Fathers took them to the soccer, to watch their local Croatia club, to the church, to Croatian language school, folklore. It's a common theme, and even though we only met here, it feels like we've known each other our whole lives, and different generations too. But
Yeah, there's that commonality of growing up. I mean,
Continuation.
yeah, because when in that soundbite from David, he talks about going to Misa,
Yeah.
then going to on Saturdays going to Croatian school. These are all things that I did as well that you did.
And it's the same everywhere. In every
Exactly, in every
community.
Croatian community, you had the exact same thing. And then after Misa, they usually have a picnic somewhere, or there'd be a dance or something. It kind of kept us together. But I really want to highlight what you mentioned, because I think it's very, very important. Not just sports, but this is generally important. That positive attitude, the positive message.
yeah,
There's a lot of times I run into domestics here who will complain endlessly about things, and I'm not saying that there isn't stuff to complain about. However, there's also a lot of good here, and if you can't see that, it's gotten to the point where I'm now sitting there going, okay, look, dude, you need to go out and try it out over there, because right now what you're telling me is it's ruining my impression of what I'm enjoying this.
Exactly.
You know,
And I think you have to be here to see the good. You
Yes.
can't see it through a online portal article. I won't name names, but you know, you just can't see it because it's just automatically geared towards negativity. But when
Yes.
you're here, you see the good spirit of the people, which you can't see in a news article or
No,
on TV.
That's all just clickbait.
It's clickbait,
Like,
exactly. It's like
with
positivity
clickbait-
doesn't really sell, does it? It's always negativity, scandal. I mean, I'd like to, if there was like a positive news channel. I mean, I think Globalna Hrvatska does a good job of that, but you know, for the wider masses to read, and that's also another motivation. A lot of people in Croatia knew that Sydney, Melbourne, Toronto, Croatia were big, but they didn't realize how big. They didn't realize it wasn't 50 people watching, it was tens of thousands, you know. It wasn't just some Pero Peric from Donja, you know, Ilova or something playing, and all respect to Ilova, and a lot of my friends in Moslavina, they're big fans of the page and support. Tomislav Pelin, he lives in Kutina, he's a local newspaper journalist. He's helped me so much in researching as well. He's actually, you know, met players that live in Kutina now, and they played for Vancouver, Croatia in the 70s.
How much of the time does this take you? How much time
A lot
does
of
this take
time.
up?
So I have a regular 9-to-5 job, you know, and this takes up, you know, a lot of my free time. And David Deek's free time, how many hundreds of hours he spent like converting VHS to video.
Oh, wow.
And as well, you know, my friend Max Jurkovic from Adelaide as well, you know, digging up archives of that club. Steven Puškarić from Sydney, Ratko Đurić as well, Steven Bilokapić from Sydney, all my good friends I've known for decades before, and just all happened to, you know, come together at the right time. Takes up a lot of time. You know?
Yeah, I believe it.
Well, takes away a lot of sleep too. You know, I should be going to sleep, getting, you know, rested for my, you know, job that actually pays me money. You know, but here I am, you know, looking what happened in 1973, you know, in Toronto. But yeah, like Tomislav Pelin, he interviewed, you know, for the local Kutina paper, and I can share that with you later. Player Juro, his name is Juro, he interviewed him for the local paper, and he speaks about like how he went to Canada in the early 70s with his friend, who also played and later went to Melbourne, Croatia. He speaks about how he spoke to a baba there, and then before he left and went back to Croatia, and that was just after Hrvatsko proljeće, Croatian spring, and he had problems coming back home. You know, he said that when he lived in Canada, for that short period, he realized what Croatian patriotism was. Like, that's when he decided to, you know, go to church regularly, and he goes to this day, he goes, if it wasn't for the Croatians in Vancouver that showed him, you know, what it's all about, you know, he probably wouldn't live the way he does today. And when he was leaving Vancouver to come here, some baba that he spoke to from Lika, he's just like, you know, pozdravi mi moj lički kamen, and like she was crying because like she left as a, you know, a refugee as a child, you know, after World War II, and she's just like pozdravi mi lički kamen, and that stuck with that Juro. And you know, in this interview where he spoke about his playing days and he shared photos which have been featured on the page, that stuck to him to this day, and he tears up just thinking about that kind of stuff. So basically, when it was banned to, you know, fight for the Croatian cause here, the Croatian immigration or diaspora, as you want to call it, they kept the torch alive until '91.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, conditions became favourable, and people here were allowed to openly, you know, all right, in 1990, the first democratic elections, but you know, up until then, they had to stay silent. You know, and I think they played a big role. Croatians abroad. I think people here need to realise how important that is, and I feel this page has at least a little bit, you know, made people aware. You know, it's got 6,000 followers, so you know, a large chunk are from Croatia, which is good, and that's why I also think it's important that the page posts bilingually. So I post in Croatian and English, so that locals here can read. You know,
I've seen German as well.
German as well when it's a club from Germany. You know, if it's a club from a Spanish-speaking country, I get it translated to Spanish as well. I make sure a native speaker checks the text before it gets posted. But yeah, I think it's very important that it's distributed in a number of languages, because there's two main sort of audiences that we want to focus on. People in Croatia realizing how strong that battle for Croatia was before '91, and young people in the diaspora as well, you know, who think, Hajduk, Dinamo, be all and end all, and they are for people in Croatia who grew up with these clubs. But your club, the one that you grew up with, that your father, your grandfather supported, that's your club. You can have sympathies, but you can only love the club that you grew up with. That's the way I see it. So yeah, that's how Forever Croatia was inspired, and I think more and more people are aware, more and more people are associating it with the page. That's why they wear the t-shirts at North American Croatian tournaments are here, at the Australian tournament as well. It's grown into something much bigger than, me and a few of my friends when we started this thought it was going to be. So yeah, it's
Well, I think it's a very, very good success and a very good story.
Well, yeah.
Keep it up, man.
Yeah,
I think some people are shocked when they see how many clubs there were outside.
I was shocked.
me too.
Like I was shocked. I didn't. I think you had. I was just quickly scrolling there. A team from was it Edmonton or
Edmonton in Canada,
and
Croatia.
Calgary or something.
Calgary as well, yeah.
I was like, I had no idea.
No.
Well,
and
South Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
South
you know,
Africa,
wow.
that was like, how did Croatians, end up there, and why did they start a soccer club, promote the Croatian name? And I found it amazing. We were speaking before about how before the internet, all the, old fellas knew what was happening on different continents. Sydney, Croatia in 1978 went to Canada and America, did a whole tour, Calgary, Toronto, New York, everywhere, and vice versa. Toronto, Croatia, after they won the North American title, they did a tour of Australia. So there are photos of them in Canberra, Croatia in 1976, just after they've won it, posing for photographs before a game. I think that's huge. That doesn't happen today anymore. There was like a Croatian Club World Cup thing happening here in Croatia, but you'd have 50 people watching. There you had thousands of people watching.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
And always good stories, as you were mentioning. All these things like apartheid South Africa. We were doing the right thing, and always
exactly.
always this positive story, and it brings me back to World Cup. France wins, we're second. France destroyed its capital city, and we had the best party on planet Earth.
And we came
Greatest
second.
homecoming
We didn't win. We celebrated it in style.
But it was not just that was so classy. We celebrated in style. It was one of the better parties of all time.
Yeah, fine.
And it was classy. It was a class. Another example. It was just a classy thing to do.
And the world fell in love with Croatia again.
Again.
After that. Those images went worldwide. Everyone talked about them. 500,000 people.
Yeah.
1/6 of your population
Yeah.
is on the streets greeting your, footballing heroes and celebrating. I heard stories where somebody needed water in that massive crowd, right? So somebody would pass money over. Back then it was the corners. They'd give a 20 corner note. It'll pass through 10 pairs of hands to get to the kiosk on the Trgbana Jelačića. They'll buy the water, return the water, and with the exact change.
Yeah.
Wow.
Through 10 different people.
I didn't hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So there's something about these events when we do get together, when we're, not preoccupied with a daily grind.
Yeah.
It's just something magical happens, that brings us all together, and just the love for each other, which doesn't happen every day, but when it does, you remember it for a lifetime.
Oh, I remember the party at the square when we beat Germany 3-0.
Yeah.
In '98.
Yeah.
Wow.
3-0.
This is back in the day. Like I remember we watched that game at home, and obviously not advice for kids, but back in the day, we pulled out the shotgun and started shooting off the balcony.
Back then it was allowed.
Back then, everybody, it was what you did, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we don't do this anymore.
No, not anymore.
But
you go across the border, you can do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely, absolutely, folks, smash the like button, hit the links, because this is
Follow us, follow him.
Yeah, this is
Follow the Home
important
Team
stuff.
podcast.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the most refreshing podcast about Croatian sports in the English language I've heard ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
So hopefully it grows and gets the audience that it deserves.
Thank you.
We'll have you back after the qualification games then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have Viduka coming after the qualification game, but we definitely want to have you come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Thank you.
It's an after a
honor.
while, see how Forever Croatia is going.
Yeah.
Talk about your adventures, because I'm sure you're going to go to more games.
Yeah. It's on the cards.
Yeah.
A few qualifiers. Hopefully
And,
the World Cup. We'll
an
see.
update, why not?
Yeah, sure. It'll be an honor. It's a pleasure to speak with you guys, and it's good that this conversation got recorded. It's not just a offline conversation around the fire with a few drinks. Often we have these conversations. I'm like, this should be recorded. It's like, finally, it is being recorded.
All right. Well,
All right.
On that note, I do have one suggestion. I like the Zapruder film, but I want to do our version of the Zapruder film with Boban double kicking the guy in
Maksimir.
in Maksimir. But like from all angles with the magic knee theory and all that.
The magic meat.
All right, folks, that's it for this episode of the Home Team Podcast. Jozo Kolakušić, Forever Croatia. Smash
Facebook,
it, like
Instagram,
it,
yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, and we'll be with you next time. In the meantime, keep it between the ditches.
Thanks.